America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry enormous guns. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wait.
So, my next guest, as I was walking by, because I'm in Illinois stand, I was walking by, the room is different than the studio. And my lovely honey bunny was talking to our next guest, and she said, Daniel, he's very excited to talk to you. And I am. And I'm always excited to talk to our next guest. And I'll tell you why. I've never met him. I don't know him. We do not share the same background, the same religion. But you know why I'm always excited to talk to him? He is a warrior for the same reasons I think I fight. He believes in freedom. He believes in Americanism, in Western civilization. He believes in liberty. And he spends every hour of every day working to secure it. CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, author of Domestic Enemies, and continuing to write constantly, which you should put it into your phone immediately, frontpagemag.com. Daniel Greenfield, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. That is really high praise indeed.
Well, it's the truth. And, you know, it's a fascinating and a beautiful time to be an American. For 50 years, we have always had the same annoyance, the same quiet, cold war with the Islamo-Nazi, the same scallywags in the White House. This is the first time they're on their ass in Iran. This is the first time they're nervous, no matter where they are. And we have the benefit of your Front Page Mag, of all of the options with the internet to out the fact that Qatar gives 300% of the money AIPAC has ever given. And the information is for anybody who wants to look it up. And all the allegations of our ally Israel being the bad guy, it's for everyone to see that that is exactly the opposite of the truth.
Absolutely right. This is the first time really in my life, and I've only been around for so long, that I can see the left actually being afraid. I can see the people, the Marxists, the communists, the Islamists, who are laying siege to our country, actually, for the first time, coming face to face with somebody like President Trump, who's pushing back against them, against a new generation of conservatives, that is not just accepting the same lie, the same intimidation, and the same propaganda campaign. They're doubling down, they're tripling down, they're lying even harder, and nobody's believing them anymore.
No, and here's the other issue when it comes to this Iranian issue with the theocracy that poses as a country. At least now there's something done about it. He has taken out, we don't even really have a count on how many IRGC or the head of the Ayatollah Assad. We don't know how deep they are. However, what we do know is it's the first time in 50 years, at least we're not against the ropes, always being told promises and bribing the very people that promise to destroy us. I love where we are. And when you're going through your writings, I also love the fact that now the lie of Israel and AIPAC. I just had a conversation in a cigar store, and the guy doesn't agree with me. And he kept saying, you know, AIPAC should be a FARA. Why? They're not foreign. Of course they don't need to be FARA. They're Americans. It's an American pack, and they're bound by the same rules and regulations that FARA is, if not more so. And it was only through that I went to FARA, and I started to look up exactly what Qatar gives. Qatar gives 300%, 300 times the money Israel gives. Just Qatar has less than 350,000 people. Why would they do that? Why would they give that kind of money? It doesn't make any sense. And when you look at AIPAC and all the accusations, well, AIPAC is under the Lobbying Disclosure Act. They disclose every dollar. They have a third the amount of lobbyists as Qatar. They have a third the amount of lobbyists as Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia gives 400% the money. So the truth is there in our phones. This is the best time to prove everybody wrong.
It's absolutely true. You know, remember the time when Obama was sending all these pallets of cash over to Iran, and then the Biden administration was sending billions of dollars to Afghanistan. They were not doing that for AIPAC. Now, I was actually in D.C. last week. I was in Congress, not on a foreign policy, not anything that Israel is Middle East related, but I was seeing some members of Congress. And, there are people there. So Congress is in session, and there are various groups there. There's a cattle association. And I saw some Jewish groups that were actually there. They weren't with AIPAC. They were also meeting with members of Congress and talking about Israel. The mysterious thing is I was seeing no Muslim people there. None of those people were going up and down the aisles and trying to talk to members of Congress, because what they do is, as you've said, with Qatar, they do it behind the scenes. They move money around. It's not community members meeting with members of Congress. It's foreign interests that are meeting with members of Congress.
And the fascinating thing, most people don't remember, but luckily for us, we remember, during the time of the scandal that was the Iranian nuclear agreement, it was a treaty as it was formally told to us. And then all of a sudden the outrage came from the non-democrat, the non-American moron. The president can't unilaterally sign treaties. Then all of a sudden it became a deal. Then it was the Iranian deal. It went from a treaty to a deal. And then when he said the excuse of why he gave them money, do you know something, Daniel? This must be from growing up around card players. There's always a tell when someone is lying or posing as if they have a stronger hand. He said he gave them the money back from the Shaw order for airplanes to Jimmy Carter. And then, well, wait a minute. Even if you say that that's right, why would you give that money back, number one? Number two, they only gave $380 million. He said, well, I gave them interest, and he gave them compound interest into the tune of $2 billion, 2,000 million. Now, I don't know much about other religions, but I know enough to be curious. So I've read some of their book, some of their story that they tell. One thing that has been a solid in all of their stories in all of their countries, all of the countries led by Islamo-Nazis, they do not, it is forbidden to have loans with interest. It's not that they don't like it. We prefer not to have it. It's forbidden. So Barack Obama made an excuse up to give $2,000 million to the most dangerous country to America, Western civilization on the planet. And for that alone, I think he's a traitor, among other things.
That's a very good point. It was an absolute lie. And I have to ask, what's the compound interest in the murder of over 1,000 Americans? What's the compound interest on torturing and kidnapping and brutally killing people like Colonel Buckley, the TWA hijacking that happened in broad daylight? What's the compound interest on that, the world?
Daniel, they forget. I watched my family members who were in the Marine Corps when they killed the Marines in '83, when they killed the Marines again in '96. Are you out of your mind? I'm going to tell you something. You know, when you pay attention to this whole nonsense of a intifada, global intifada, there is one way to peace, and that's a Carthaginian peace, and that's it. Now, maybe it's because I'm half Italian, but it's the only way to get along. Until you stop threatening me, until you stop promoting that you're going to kill anybody that doesn't agree with you, I'm going to be the one last standing. I really feel that way right now.
That's the only way it is. You know, terrorists only understand one language. That's why they're terrorists. They're not terrorists because they want to negotiate. They're not terrorists because they want to know how we can work out a deal. They're terrorists because they believe in terror. It's the only language they understand.
Now, this leads me to the other beautiful reason we're here. It's the first time since George Washington we've ever had a president who wasn't cultivated in this fraud that is our phony republic, where you have to sell yourself to be a senator. You have to sell yourself triple to be a congressman. You have to tell a lot of nonsense and stand for nothing. I don't like some of the things Donald Trump has done, specifically the cozying up to the Qatar and the plane and all the rest. I don't like it. I don't like the agreement with the golf course and all that. But what I love is the fact that even when I disagree with him, he's always putting the American interest and safety first. He is the first one to not just give me lip service on a campaign trail, but to tell me I'm going to wipe them out and wipe them out. And on top of it, export all of the relatives that have been living not just high on the hog, but the lives of Riley and multimillionaires driving around in G-Wagons, posing in bikinis when she would have got her head chopped off, the niece of the colonel or the general, whatever the hell they call themselves. I mean, it's great to see him understand the problem, protect the good Iranians that ran from that to hide here. And how dare you make them nervous by letting the relatives of the totalitarian theocrats live next door to him? That alone is crazy.
It's insane. You go to Manhattan, you go to Beverly Hills, and every single enemy of our country is there. The Chinese dictators, the Russians, the Qataris, every single enemy of the United States has sent their kids, all their family members to live here. And they are living here in the best possible way. They're in the biggest penthouses, in the biggest mansions. They do whatever they want. They commit assaults. They get away with it. We've seen this again and again.
What else was fascinating is I love the gift Trump has that he doesn't know he has. And that is that people hate him so much they out their own weakness, their own treason, their own agenda. And I'm speaking now specifically of Tom Massey for just a minute. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. We are all repulsed by Nancy Pelosi trading $400 million, $500 million in insider trading. But one thing I'll say about Nancy Pelosi, she did it over 40 years. Ro Khanna, in 7 years, insider traded, by his own disclosures, $170 million. In fact, he has traded every day, 7 times a day, of every trading day open during his time as a congressman, and he has never had a loser. In fact, every trade results in $16,500 average of profitability. So when you look at who Ro Khanna is, he makes Nancy Pelosi look somewhat honest. And you look at the committees he's on. When I saw Tom Massey and him to pair up to go after Trump, that explains how Tom Massey had $10 million, because I thought libertarians don't sell out to PACs and sell out to different things. But to watch the people that join to attack Trump really reveals their character more than it does Trump's, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, some libertarians clearly think that selling out is part of the free market, and how dare you stop them from selling out. My favorite Khanna story is that he actually put out a congressional bill to ban congressional stock trading, and he was engaging in congressional stock trading while he was putting this bill out. The level of hypocrisy and corruption is just out of sight.
It's insane. It's insane. And it goes to show you, it's like in the illusion of what our republic is supposed to be. This is what everything happens in Illinois, everything that happens in Chicago. Nothing happens that isn't known to happen for months before they call a vote, months before they shelf a vote. And I'm wondering, when you see the kind of chaos that's happening in Democrat areas, they were able to hide under cover as, we're just Democrats, we have bad policies. But when you look at New York, you look at Mamdani, you look at the rezoning, the plan for Muslim areas in the area. He's another one who's a great asset to the Islamo-Nazi global intifada. Just this time it's the Big Apple.
Yeah, it's really curious because he announced this big rezoning plan for an area that has a large Muslim population, which means these guys, the people who donate to him, who backed him, who funded him, are suddenly looking at the price of the value of their real estate going up 10 times, which is a pretty damn good investment.
Yeah, that's Illinois Republican. That's how Denny Hassert made his money. He knew exactly where to buy the real estate, then create the policy to drive up the value. It's a fascinating thing to watch. And what else is interesting to me, and I'm curious to know your take on it, you've been around a long time with these lawsuits, a long time with watching the weaponization and lawfare, as it's often called. I love the idea that the government settled Trump's $10 billion case. Now, there's some pushback on how he's going to do the fund. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't lawsuits... I have a friend of mine, a guy who has the morning show here. He was in a lawsuit for 10 years it represented the governor, kind of Illinois. They stretched it out. They made sure he was 10 years in a lawsuit. Trump's $10 billion lawsuit was settled in less than a year. So for the government to settle it and for the terms to be set up the way they are, how are you interpreting that? Because I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on it.
The nerve of the Democrats to oppose this is just out of sight. They created this whole system of persecution of President Trump, of Republicans, conservatives, of my organization, by the way, which faced a 6-year investigation for writing negatively about Hillary Clinton. We had to go through a 6-year IRS torture session. We spent a whole lot of money doing this. And the Democrats have engaged in settlements with their own political interests over and over again. These are the same people in New York who did a settlement with BLM for the riots, and they paid the BLM rioters millions of dollars. They did this in a number of cities. Every time you have a number of these Democrat interests, they sue, they get these massive payouts from the government, from the very people they elected. Over and over again, they invested in those same politicians, and they have the nerve to protest this.
I felt he was too magnanimous with setting it up the way he did. I thought he was too magnanimous with the settlement price. I think he should have pushed it to the limit, because that was the most obvious example of lawfare ever used. And when you look at what happened to Mike Lindell, when you look at what happened to Giuliani, when you look at what happened to Sidney Powell, all who have been proven exactly correct, all the allegations they made, all the phony ballots, I wouldn't have settled anything. I would have went to the finish line. I think he would have won at least the $10 billion.
People have had their lives absolutely destroyed, and just even a payout is not fixing it. I mean, you've wasted 6, 7, 8, 10 years of your life in federal litigation. You've had your life turned upside down. You haven't been able to move on with it. You're not getting that time back.
No. And that's the saddest part, right? We all suffered. The entire country, 370 million people. Now, this benefited the scallywags, as political corruption always does. However, none of us will be able to get one day of that time back. I don't think there is a monetary settlement that can be enough, especially when you look at who they went after, why they went after them, and the people who just demanded and wanted an audit. And that J6 committee, I'm going to tell you something, Daniel. I wonder if the people who are running the country understand the angst that the citizens have. I want to see these people who were on that fraud committee, who railroaded decent people, old people, construction workers, guys who were never political, some guys who even worked for the government and were honest their whole life. And you stuck them in a cell and you didn't give them their rights that were coming to them to talk to their lawyers. Some of them you kept in solitary confinement. I want people to go to jail.
I mean, we have judges like Judge Boasberg in D.C. who signed off wiretapping, spying on members of Congress, on as a United States senator in pursuit of this. I mean, this is Watergate stuff, and these people are still there. They're still in the government. They're still sitting on the bench. None of them, not one single one of them, has actually gone to prison. They've gotten positions teaching at Georgetown.
Thank God we're old. You know why? Because a couple of guys who are a little politically wise can look at that and say, wait a minute, his daughter works for Kamala Harris, and now you know he's nothing more than a two-bit crooked Democrat. This is why frontpagemag.com is where I go to, and I love the books. The articles, I could go through them forever. Everybody should read everything. What do you have coming out? Anything very, very interesting that is going to be an upender to people's opinion? Are you going to go after these people who spread the frauds of Israel? What else you got coming in the pipeline?
The reason I was just actually over in Congress is we're launching the Judicial Accountability Project. We've assembled a dossier of judicial abuses. We've actually developed a roadmap for how Congress can hold them accountable. We briefed about 24 members of Congress on it. There was interest in it, and we're trying to rally support in the media to try and make it happen. Because actually, people think it's impossible, it's not doable. You have to go through this whole impeachment process with the full Senate trial. You actually do not. Judges can be called in by House Judiciary, by the Senate Judiciary. They can actually be put through a process that is far short of a full Senate impeachment trial, and they can be held accountable. Congress has just not been doing it, and it's time for them to do it.
Chuck Schumer on the Sunday show when he guaranteed obstructionists because of the 235 judges that were illegitimately put in positions of power from the Biden administration. This is why it's crucially important to never give up the fact that Joe Biden stole the election, and everything he did after that, to me, is null and void. I love the fact that you keep the pressure on, Daniel. I really do. And I cannot thank you and everybody at the David Horowitz Freedom Center, but most importantly, Front Page Mag, where you keep us posted very often. Thank you so much for always making time for me.
My pleasure. Thank you for the fight.
Thank you. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
He believes in freedom, capitalism, and individual liberty. And because of that, he's become an enemy of the state. He's Shaun Thompson, and this is the Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft, but that's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If they find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes in your financial accounts, they'll alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that can make all the difference. Save up to 30% off your first year with the promo code BECK. LifeLock.com. 800-LifeLock. 1-800-LifeLock or LifeLock.